Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome back for part three of our Q&A session. And if you're watching this, I guess that's good because it means you didn't get so bored listening to parts 1 and 2 that you just decided to skip this one altogether. So, but this one should actually be pretty short. I think we only have a couple questions left, so let's let's get right to it. So, for Goldilocks, how did the bidet work out for you? Pros and cons.
Well, it didn't. To be honest with you, I never even tried it. I carried it in my pack, but the first time I had to go to the bathroom in the woods, he actually had some baby wipes, and it was a desperate situation. So I grabbed his baby wipes and never looked back. So um, I I ended up sending the bidet. I just had a half-liter platypus bag that I was using as the bidet, and it was dead weight in my pack, so I ended up getting rid of it in one of the towns. I put it in a hiker box. So I've been using baby wipes primarily. I love the idea of the bidet, but the idea of packing water when water is already kind of in some places it's a difficult commodity to come by just for drinking. So the last thing I wanted to do was be carrying extra water just to clean my bum. But also early on, it was really cold, and the last thing I wanted to do was squirt a bunch of ice cold water on my butt, especially first thing in the morning, which is when that urge usually hits me. So I wish I could answer that question and give you all kinds of great information about the bidet, but I never actually used it.
Okay, next question. Do you notice any changes in how your body is responding to all the miles? And they say your trail legs, hiker hunger, etc.
So for me, definitely, I'm noticing that the uphills are getting much easier. Um, my body is not getting as sore and tired as it did the first month. Hiker hunger, I'm not really. I thought I was getting hiker hunger, but it only lasted for like 3 days, and I don't have an issue with that. I don't know when or if it will hit, but it probably will at some point. But definitely, I'm feeling in better shape. The uphills don't seem as difficult as they did early on. It's now more the heat that affects me than the act of hiking. So on the hot days, my legs I feel exhausted, but it's more the heat than my endurance as far as being in shape.
Honestly, for me, my experience is literally exactly what you just said. Yes, I felt definitely and certainly an increase in my stamina and my ability to just put on more miles on the trail. I've stayed relatively healthy. I haven't had any foot problems and like that. But the issue of hiker hunger, which is something that a lot of hikers talk about, uh, hasn't really hit me either. And I'm quite frankly really surprised because I have been losing weight. I said I lost 26 pounds so far. So you'd think I'd be starving all the time. And honestly, when I'm home, not on the trail, I got a pretty damn healthy appetite. But God, I would almost say that my appetite is less out here on the trail than it is back home. And I don't have an explanation for that. It's actually really taken me by surprise. And maybe it'll come on later. Who knows? But for now, haven't really experienced hiker hunger. Is there anything you wish you had taken that you didn't?
For me, the only thing that I can think of is I also have an umbrella like Roadkill has, and I opted not to bring it because we were starting in March, and I did a lot of research and looked at both sides of the issue. Should I take it? Should I not? Ultimately, I decided not to because of the weight and because I felt like we were leaving early enough that the desert wouldn't be that hot while we were going through it. I was wrong. I thought we would be covering a lot more miles and be through it before the really hot weather hit. So when I see Roadkill with his umbrella and I'm baking in the heat and he's marching along looking very cool and comfortable, I I get a little bit jealous and wish that I had brought my umbrella, but I didn't. And now we're almost out of the desert, so it is what it is.
For me, there isn't honestly something that I left behind that I wish that I had. I think I did a pretty good job of bringing everything I needed and not a lot of stuff that I didn't need. However, and this actually kind of dovetails in with the umbrella. Once we start in the Sierras, I don't feel like I'm going to need an umbrella at that point. So I'm planning on leaving the umbrella behind or sending it home with my dad at Kennedy Meadows. But I'm actually going to be replacing it with something that I probably, thankfully, have not needed yet, but in hindsight, wish that I had, because it would have been critical. That's a spare trekking pole. There are people on a trail that we see who only hike with one trekking pole. We see people that don't use any trekking poles. And, well, good for them if they don't need them. But because of my injury, I am super dependent. God, there's that word super again. I'm going to quit doing that. I'm highly dependent upon my trekking poles for hiking. If I only had one trekking pole, it would be very difficult for me to continue hiking. And if somehow I broke or lost both trekking poles, I'd be screwed. I'm not sure I could get myself out of the mountains. That's how dependent I am upon them. So going into the Sierras, where it's extremely rough and remote country, I actually plan to add a trekking pole to my pack just as a backup in case one of my primary trekking poles gets lost or broken.
All right. Can you give a short rundown on the types of electronics you were using on trail for these videos and why you selected them over others available?
Sure, yeah. Okay, well, this particular video and all the videos that I shoot are recorded just on my phone. I have a Samsung Galaxy S10e, and then along with it, I have a microphone muff with a dead cat on it. It's made by Rode, R-O-D-E. You can find them on eBay for about $50. They make a huge difference in the quality of the sound, and especially in the wind. The camera right now is currently mounted on an UltraPod 2. I use that not only for the tripod shots, but a lot of times I'll use it as kind of a selfie stick to hold out in front of me when I'm walking on the trail. All of my video editing is done with a program called Power Director. It's Power Director for Android. I tried out a number of different video editing software programs before I started the trail, and I found Power Director to be the most intuitive and easy to use, and I really like it. I can't imagine using anything different. So it does everything I want to do, and probably does a lot of things that I don't know how to do even still. Before we ever left for the trail, I went on YouTube and found as much copyright-free music that I could and cut that into little 2 and 3 minute segments and save those in a separate file. I have about, oh gosh, close to 200 little music snippets or segments that I use to put soundtracks in my videos. And the same thing for all the other goofy little things that I like to insert in there, like the cougar shots that some of you think are hysterical and others think are ridiculous. But the other electronics that I carry, I already showed you the solar panel that I use to help keep the batteries charged up. But that's, as far as video editing, that's pretty much everything that I have.
The tablet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've forgotten one of the most important ones. Yeah, I'm using a Samsung Galaxy Tab A 10.1 inch tablet. I know many, probably most people who are publishing videos from the trail just use their phones. But man, with my eyesight, I mean, you can see I got to wear these old man glasses just to read your comments, and these big fat fingers that I mine. There's no way that I can do video editing on that little phone screen. So I carry the tablet, and I don't regret it. It's heavy. It weighs over a pound, but it's been such, it makes it so much easier to edit the videos that I think it's worth the wait.
All right. What gear changes do you plan on making as you enter the Sierra?
Well, considering the Sierras are only a few days away, we've already talked about a couple of the gear changes we're going to make. One is that both of us have decided to replace our puffy jackets with jackets that we think are going to be a little bit warmer. We're going to add, of course, mosquito head nets that we haven't been packing yet. We're going to be carrying insect repellent, because anyone who knows anything about the Sierras knows the mosquitoes can literally eat you alive. We're going to add fishing tackle. We're excited to actually try and start supplementing a little bit of our camp food diet with hopefully some fresh caught brook trout. And
Microspikes?
well, now that's an interesting question, microspikes. In any other year, everybody knows that when you go into Sierras, you have to add either crampons or microspikes and an ice axe. But this year, I think that they said it's 10 lowest snowfall years in recorded history. And we've had a horrible heat wave this year. So all the reports that we're getting currently out of Kennedy Meadows and out of people who are already in the Sierras have said that almost all the snow's gone. Even in places like Forester Pass, where traditionally that's the one spot you want to have an ice axe and some traction devices for your feet, microspikes. There's almost no snow there. So we're seriously considering just going into the Sierras without that usual snow gear. We will, of course, have to add bear cans to our gear. That's required by law to carry bear cans to store our food in. Okay, here's a question on permits. With the current permit system procedure, how did you two get 2 permits starting on the same day?
We got really lucky. He was at work on the day that the October permit thing opened up. I took the day off of work, so we had 2 separate computers, and we logged in early and just waited for or a few minutes early, waited for the thing to open up. Fortunately, we got pretty decent numbers. I don't remember what your...
my numbers were actually logged in on my phone and on a computer, so 2 devices. I think I got a number of about 800 and then 1,800.
And I had somewhere in between those 2 numbers. So we had already decided on March 16th as our first choice, but we had a couple of alternate dates in case those days filled up.
Yeah.
But he was able to get his permit for the 16th easily.
Yeah.
And then I was able to get into the system not very long afterwards, and there were still several permits available for the 16th. So we got really lucky.
At least for this year, March isn't necessarily considered the highest demand date. It seems like everybody wants to start sometime after April 1st. Probably the most popular dates are April through maybe the first week of May. Those dates fill in the
Very
fastest.
quickly.
Yeah. And then as you get either earlier or later, then those dates fill up later. So March 16th was, it was a little bit earlier than most people I think wanted to start. So there wasn't a lot of,
that helped.
yeah, it wasn't a lot of competition for those particular dates. And actually, I think I made a video, probably video number 4, that was actually on that application process. So if you're bored and want to go back and watch that, be my guest.
Do you use an app to identify the snakes, reptiles, insects, and other creatures on the trail, or are you depending on your own knowledge?
The answer is actually both. Been very active in the outdoors my entire life, and as I kind of referred to earlier, I've always had a fascination with lizards and snakes and other creepy stuff like that. So I have a pretty good basic knowledge of most of the stuff that I'm seeing out there. But because there are little regional differences between some species, and of course Southern California has unique species that I may not have encountered before, I do double check a lot of my species identification. Before I ever started the trail, I just found, I went to a web page, Reptiles of California, and I downloaded a picture of every single reptile, snake, and lizard that they had in there, and then named it so that I could use that as kind of a way to double check to identify species that I saw. And some of these, like rattlesnakes, for example, gosh, there's probably 8 or 10 different species of rattlesnakes just in Southern California alone. And some of them are, the differences are kind of subtle. So it helps to have a visual identification to make sure that you're, or that I am identifying them correctly. But most of it, honestly, it's just, it's up here. So.
One more question. Given the PCTA position and asking people to stay off the trail, what has kept you on trail? Are you concerned about getting the virus out in the middle of the woods?
Okay, this is a tough question to answer because it's almost more politically charged than it is anything else. But I'll do my best and try and make this concise. So I think to understand why we're still on the trail, we have to go back to the very beginning of our hike. We actually left our home in Washington the first week of March and to head down to California. At that time, the virus situation was nowhere near as advanced or as serious as it became in just the next couple of weeks after that point. So we had committed to come into the trail. We had gone through the public transportation gauntlet of flying down from Seattle to California and then getting a ride down to the trailhead. And we actually were on the trail about, I think we were about 4 days in before the PCTA came out with its announcement asking hikers to either postpone their trip or, if they were on the trail, to leave the trail. So at that point, we thought very long and hard about what would be our best option and what would make the most sense, not only for us, but for those who we were likely to come in contact with. To leave the trail would have meant having to, for one way, figure out how to get off the trail in the first place when you're in the middle of the PCT, and then find transportation back to the nearest airport, which was probably going to be somewhere in San Diego, and get flight arrangements to go back to Washington, and then arrange to get from the airport in Washington back to our home in rural eastern Washington. That would literally mean running the entire gauntlet, which we had just successfully navigated, without being exposed to the virus or without contracting the virus, and then risking spreading that virus to those people back home. However, we thought, well, we're out here, we're safe, we're healthy. And remember, we were 4 or 5 days on the trail at this point, and neither of us were showing symptoms and felt fine. So we thought, since we're on the trail, all we have to do is maintain the common sense principles of social distancing and practicing proper hygiene, and not putting ourselves at risk of being exposed to the virus by anyone else. And we could continue to go healthy, or stay healthy, I should say. So that's what we opted to do. Now, a lot of people accuse us of being selfish and just wanting to hike, and no, it wasn't that. It was like, what is the best decision for our health and the health of others? And when I say the health of others, let me remind you that had we gone back home, none of you know this. You're probably hearing this for the first time, but our current situation back home is we have a medium-sized house, 1,900 square feet. It's not just me and Goldilocks who live there. We live there with our daughter, our 4 grandchildren, and my daughter's fiance. 8 people, 3 generations of 8 people. So that is not a good situation for staying healthy. If we've learned anything from how the virus has affected people around the country and around the world, multi-generation family housing seem to be the ones that are most vulnerable to the virus and to getting sick. So we anticipated that. We knew that. I need to remind you, many of you don't know this, but Goldilocks is a medical professional herself. She's a nurse practitioner with 2 postgraduate degrees in medicine. So she has the ability to make good decisions on medical issues like this. So, so in a nutshell, that was our decision. We continue to hike north. We, whenever possible, tried to avoid contact with other people, other places we thought where we might be exposed to the virus. Yes, we had to do resupplies. So we had a lot of packages mailed to us where we just had to go in the post office and pick up a resupply. On the occasions when we had to go into a store to actually purchase items, yeah, that put us at risk. But was the risk any greater there than if we were back home and going to the local grocery store? No, it was the same risk. So it didn't make sense to go home. If anything, we feel even more firm in our decision to stay on trail and continue hiking. We know there are those of you out there who disagree with it, that we should have respected the PCTA, we should have listened to the governor of California and his shelter-in-place orders. Sorry, we didn't do that. We just decided to keep hiking. So I hope that's a satisfactory answer. Some of you won't be satisfied with it. I'm sorry, but that's the answer. So, anything to add?
Oh, I think you hit the nail on the head.
Okay, so that concludes the question and answer period. It went way longer than we thought, but you guys sent us a ton of questions. I mean, thank you very much. We're flattered that you guys are so interested in following our videos. And
we apologize if we missed your question or
absolutely
didn't get a chance to answer it.
Absolutely. Well, if this goes over well, we'll be happy to do another Q&A session. So, yeah, by all means, keep your comments coming in. I try my best to answer everyone's question or comment when they send it in to me, but understandably, it's hard to keep up sometimes. And with intermittent internet and cell phone access, sometimes it's days go by without me even being able to read your comments. So, but it doesn't mean that we don't appreciate them. So let's end this up on a positive note. This is a gift package that was sent to us, again, by a fellow subscriber, Joe Bonnell. It looks like he's from San Jose, California, I guess. And my understanding was he's somebody who was going to hike this year, but wasn't able to, but he wanted to support us. So he sent us this package to us in Tehachapi, and we are going to open it right here on the video for you guys. Now, hopefully it's not like full of dynamite or something and blow us up. But and no, it's actually
yeah.
Okay. It's Brock's. Oh, let me see it. Jelly bird eggs.
Awesome.
And a
Lifesaver.
roll of Lifesavers. What flavor are these?
Oh.
Butter rum.
Oh,
actually,
these
that's a
are
good
my
choice.
favorite.
That's a damn good choice. Okay.
Awesome.
So big thanks to Joe for that. I want to tell you guys this was an unsolicited a gift to us. Joe included a letter. I'll show you the letter right here, but you can see it's quite long. And unfortunately, this video series has already gone pretty long, so we'll just read it off camera. But want to let you know, thanks a lot to Joe Donnell.
Brit Dog.
Trail name, Brit Dog. So
awesome. Thank you so much.
Really appreciate your support, and appreciate everybody's support out there. So thanks a lot. And before I turn the camera off, I promised you that we would do a Q&A with the family, Sacagawea and
Kronk.
And Kronk, sitting over here, munching on an apple right now. You're going to do a Q&A, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yep, okay.
Might be different.
All right. Yeah. All right.
What do you do?
Yeah, stand by for that later. All right, thanks again, you guys.
Thank you.
A through hike is considered successful if the entire hike is God, if the
I can read it.
okay, what successfully that boy oh boy, hopefully some fresh caught brook trout, and it really planted my seed. For me, yes, it's hard to talk on film. Okay.
We're gonna have to do it like a blooper video.
Yeah, I
or
know
something.
we are. Probably most excited. Well, we haven't even. Fuck. Oh my God.